This is the sound of free radio. This is the sound of Radio Caroline International after 5 years back on the air on 259.
I know one day she's gonna be mine. Be mine. She is so fine. I'll make her mine. Her name is Caroline.
This is the history of Britain's most famous offshore station, Radio Caroline, from the motor vessel Mi Amigo, the ship that's now carried a radio station for more than 11 years. Radio Caroline is your station. Listen to its story.
Sound of a Nation, Radio Caroline!
Now hear this.
The 270-ton Mi Amigo was built in Germany in 1921. Throughout her life as a coaster, she transported wood to ports all over Europe until 1961, when she changed her name and she changed her job. The Mi Amigo was now the Bonjour, and her job was housing an offshore radio station.
Sound of a Nation, Radio Caroline!
Radio Nord operated off the coast of Sweden from 1961 to May of the following year, when the Swedish government passed a bill outlawing the station. Radio Nord was silenced forever, but the Bonjour was to reappear as a radio ship some 2 years later. Meanwhile, the ship sailed to America.
Ain't no need telling you why. You just simply got to fly.
Early in 1964, an Australian businessman, Alan Crawford, was searching for a suitable ship to house Radio Atlanta. Upon hearing of the Bonjour, he went to America, purchased the ship, and sailed her to a position off Walton-on-the-Naze, 3 miles offshore.
This is Radio Atlanta on our very first day, our Champers Day, bringing you brighter broadcasting and the finest sounds around. You're in tune with the right side of radio, the good ship, Radio Atlanta, operating to you and everyone else at 200 meters.
At this time, Radio Caroline was already on the air, broadcasting from the converted Danish passenger steamer, the MV Fredericia.
If you've just joined us, you are on the air with Carl Conway, which means you're tuned to Radio Caroline on 199, your all-day music station.
The two stations operated side by side for some months, until a merger took place between the Caroline and Atlanta directors. The Bonjour, whose name was now the Mi Amigo, remained off the Essex coast. The Fredericia lifted up anchor and sailed to a position in Ramsey Bay off the Isle of Man.
Broadcasting to the best audience in the world, you. It's 12 and a half minutes now before 11 o'clock, and this is hour number 2, and it's a Tuesday morning, March the 7th, a tender-type Tuesday, and Daffy Dawn is very happy today because Daffy Dawn is going off the ship today, and Daffy Dawn is going to celebrate his birthday on shore this year. Oh, and I am so chuffed I am. Oh, man, I am so chuffed. I am so chuffed. Hello, what have we got here? Hello, good morning. Yes, lovely there. What was that again?
Good morning, Donald.
Yeah,
How are you this morning?
Not too
All
bad.
right?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Yes, well, we've got some music here.
I see. Oh, come on now, we are cool up there.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is a tape recording, actually, because I'm on my leave, having a marvellous time, undoubtedly, somewhere out there in the big, wide, wonderful world.
Yes.
Not of Daffy Don Allen, though.
Yes.
Anyway, I left this tape recording behind, and I asked Don if he would very kindly play it for me, so I could say good morning to you. And I see he has done. He's a charming fella.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Yeah, right over here.
Carolines now had a combined potential audience of over 25 million listeners.
With the growing success of the Caroline network, other offshore stations began to mushroom. The highly slick American-influenced Radio London began operations from a nearby position, and pop singer Screaming Lord Sutch, amidst a blaze of publicity, took to the air from a disused wartime fort complex in the Thames estuary. Others were soon to follow.
Although the popularity of these stations grew and grew, it wasn't all plain sailing. In January 1966, Radio London lost its anchor and drifted helplessly in the vicinity of Walton Pier for a day. And the following week, Caroline went one better and ran aground on Frinton Beach.
Radio City, which took over from Radio Such, had its problems too. In the summer of the same year, the staff on board Shivering Sands were disturbed in the night by unwelcome visitors who occupied the station for a week due to management disputes. Tragic consequences followed before the station returned to the air.
The Mi Amigo was badly damaged as a result of its grounding, and transmissions continued at very low power from a borrowed radio ship, the Cheetah II. This ship was lent to Radio Caroline by Mrs. Britt Wagner, owner of the former Radio Sud station.
Following its broadcast from the Cheetah II, Radio Caroline returned to the Mi Amigo with 5 times the previous power on a new frequency. It wasn't long before Caroline made up for its lost revenue and soon began to rebuild a sizable audience via such programs as Caroline Cash Casino, hosted by the Canadian disc jockey Bill Hearn.
£400, that's what I want to talk to you about. That's the way the CCC stands, the Caroline Cash Casino. At the moment, yes, £400 in the kitty already. It's very soon, it mounts up very quickly. Well, at £150 a day, you know, it does mount up very quickly indeed. I'm going to give you the clues that we have up to date so far in this new third competition. And if you can link them together and come up with an answer, well, please send it in right away, because hope you win. You know, maybe you'll win big money. I sure hope, well, I know you'll win big money if you win, but it'll get even bigger, so, you know. But be first, because then you will win, you see. Here we go, then, the clues from the beginning. A colourful business marks the start of this test, one of tinsel and glitter in our quizzical quest. To help you, we'd say, if your mind isn't limber, bring it down to a place with thoughts of Christmas and timber. Related to angels, find a section of note, but to reach it, you could book a passage by boat. And that's it. That's the clues that we have. They're the clues that we have up to date. Tomorrow there'll be another clue in the Caroline Cash Casino shows, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12, and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And don't forget, if you do come up with an answer here, any idea at all, send it in. Write it down on a bit of paper together with your name and address very clearly. Send it in to Caroline Cash Casino, number 3, Radio Caroline, London W1, and mark on the outside of the envelope which of the product proofs of purchase you have included, because in order to qualify for entry, you must enclose one of the following. Any one will do, but just one, and you can have as many goes as you like, as long as you enclose one of these. Either the top flap you open on a Weetabix box, the label from an Alberto VO5 shampoo bottle or 2 empty sachets, the label from any Libby's product, or any Findus frozen food pack top. You just put that inside, put the name of the product that you've enclosed outside on the envelope, send it in. I hope you win. Please win a lot, because, oh my goodness me, we want you to win.
With all the stations at the peak of their popularity, this was the golden era of offshore broadcasting. Radios Caroline, London, City, Scotland, 270 and Radio England were transmitting non-stop pop music programs, and radios 390 and Essex providing a sweet music service.
Speculation was increasing in government circles concerning the proposed Marine Offences Act. It was becoming manifestly clear that the government of the day intended to silence the modern-day pirates.
The Marine Offences Act was passed in Parliament with a small majority on July the 14th, 1967, and became law 1 month later. One by one, the radio stations closed down. Radio City, 390 and Essex, some months previous, under the Wireless Telegraphy Act for broadcasting inside territorial limits, and radios London, 270, 355 and Scotland on the 14th of August.
This is the theme, last time you're going to hear it. And that's it for this Sunday afternoon, August the 13th, the last edition of Keeper's Commotion on Radio Caroline. Thank you very, very much for being with me this afternoon, and thank you for being with me any afternoon that you have joined me previous to this one. It's been more than a real pleasure working for you and playing records for you. I want
want you each to take real good care of yourself and be very, very good to each other. And if you can possibly do it, join me tomorrow morning between 6 and 9 for the final program, The Breakfast Show, right here on Caroline. When again, for you, I'll have another 3 solid hours of finger snap and toe tap and knee knock and thigh slap and knuckle crack and finger pop and leg pull and wrist twist and tongue tang and foot stomp and rocky roll music. Brought to you by me, Keeper, spelled with an F. Be good. I hope we meet someday. And take very good care of yourself. For the last time on this commotion, this is Keeper saying bye-bye. This is the sound of free radio, Caroline South, broadcasting 24 hours a day on 259 meters in the medium wave band, where the time is now exactly 6 o'clock, Boulevard Watch Time, B-U-L-O-V-A Boulevard. When you know what makes a watch tick, you buy a Boulevard.
Weather break, go, go!
Most parts of the country will have a dry afternoon with sunny spells, but cloud and rain is expected to spread into western districts as the day wears on. In most places, it'll be rather cool, and the outlook for tomorrow and Tuesday, cloudy with rain at times, but also some bright intervals. Currently on Caroline at 17 degrees centigrade, 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Bye-bye.
At midnight on Monday, the Marine Broadcasting Offences Act becomes law, and it means that from then on, pirate radio in this country is outlawed. Already the Act, which forbids British subjects, British advertisers and British suppliers from associating with the pirates, has forced most of the stations to shut down. Only Radio Caroline, the first of the renegades, intends to stay in business after Tuesday with its ships off the Essex coast and the Isle of Man. Caroline's disc jockeys stand to become expatriates, virtually stateless if they keep broadcasting. But one of them, Robbie Dale, said this week, "I feel I owe it to my millions of listeners to keep going." Mr. Dale is in our London studio. Robbie Dale, good evening.
Good evening, John.
Where will you be living on Tuesday?
On Tuesday, I shall be on the ship off the Essex coast.
Now, how will it feel being virtually, as I said, an exile?
It'll feel strange for a start, I should imagine, and when the impact comes along of after being on the boat for a few weeks and then going over to Holland and realizing that I can't come back to England and see my friends, then I suppose it will feel a wee bit strange and a bit uncomfortable, as you might say.
Now, is it going to be worth it? I don't mean this financially. I mean, is it really going to be worth it, this wrench, leaving your family and friends behind?
I think so. I'm quite certain, in fact, that it's going to be worth it, because here's something that's taken a long time to establish, and a relationship with many, many people that's taken me a lot of work and a lot of inconvenience of being out on a ship. And there's a lot of people out there that I know exist, and they've shown their appreciation in so many ways, in letters and in gifts of appreciation, and I think knowing that they'll still be there after the bill is passed and that they'll still be listening will give me the same amount of satisfaction that I've gathered so far, that I've gained over the last year and a half.
Now, you're going to be anchored off Felixstowe. In other words, you can still see England's green and pleasant land. But if you want to reach dry land, you have to go, as you said, to Holland. Isn't this going to prove, too much of a strain, really?
Oddly enough, I was thinking about that when I was last on the ship. I thought next time I come out here, I'll be able to look across there to Felixstowe and perhaps in the distance see people on the beach with a pair of binoculars and think, well, that's forbidden territory for you now. At the same time, I thought about this angle of being away in Holland and not being able to come back. And then you weigh out one against the other, Is it going to be worth it? Will you get the same feeling of communication, not being able to see your listeners, not being able to go ashore and meet them? But
Robert, may I interrupt? You wouldn't dream, of course, of slipping back into the country at all, would you?
Well, there is going to be a trial case. There'll be no slipping in. We'll come in quite openly. When we come in, it will come in at London Airport, and Caroline will most probably announce and say that
you're coming
Johnny
ashore.
Walker and Robbie Dale will be arriving at London Airport, or one of us will be arriving at London Airport on flight.
Now, supposing, you get taken seriously ill, what happens then?
That, again, is another major problem. We've thought about this, too, if someone was perhaps taken with appendicitis. the only answer would be to call out for help from England, and perhaps for the very good service of the Walton or Clacton lifeboat to come out and help out. And then, of course, the chap who was sick and taken ashore and to hospital would be in trouble, but he would be prosecuted.
Do you think you really will want to come back to England, though?
Oh, most definitely, but as a free man.
Robbie Dale, bon voyage, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, John.
As midnight approached, millions of people were wondering if Caroline would keep its promise and stay on the air defying the government. At midnight, everyone knew the answer. Robbie Dale and Johnny Walker announced over the air that Caroline would continue.
This is your radio station. This is Radio Caroline. It is now 12 midnight. Radio Caroline would like to extend its thanks to Mr. Harold Wilson and his Labour government for at last, after over 3.5 years of broadcasting, recognizing this station's legality. It's right to be here. It's right to be broadcasting to Great Britain and the continent. It's right to give the music and service to the peoples of Europe, which we have been doing since Easter Sunday, 1964. And we, in turn, recognize your right as our listener to have freedom of choice in your radio entertainment, and of course that Radio Caroline belongs to you. It is your radio station, even though it costs you nothing. And as we enter this new phase in our broadcasting history, you naturally have our assurance that we intend to stay on the air because we belong to you and we love you. Caroline, continue.
Caroline remained on the air after the Marine Offences Bill for 7 months, surviving entirely from paid record plugs from now defunct record companies. Large debts to the offshore tender and supply company, which was a part of the Weismuller Tug Company in Holland, grew, and the company refused to let the account grow any further. On Friday afternoon, March the 1st, 1968, a meeting was held in the company's offices. It was decided to tow the ships back to Amsterdam. Here is Andy Archer to tell what happened.
On the 3rd of March 1968 at 2 o'clock, I finished the Carl Mitchell show and wished the listeners good night and hoped they'd join us again at 5:30 for the Roger Day show. Johnny Walker and I then went to the mess to drink some coffee, and we all retired to bed at about 4 o'clock. Just 1 hour later, the duty engineer Ray Glenister switched on the transmitter and the tape machine to play music until Roger Day arrived at 5:30. Before this could happen, the tug Titan pulled alongside, and at 5:19 the captain of the tug walked into Studio 1 and told Ray to switch off the music because we were being towed back to Holland. Ray obeyed and then awoke Johnny Walker, the senior disc jockey at the time. Johnny had 15 minutes to clear the records and cassettes out of the studio before they were locked up. At 7:30 we started the trip back to Holland, and all the DJs were now up and wondering if this was the end. The weather was very bad with visibility no more than 800 yards, and we had no hope to get a signal to England to warn our boss Philip Solomon. We had nothing to do on the journey except eat, sleep and play cards. Throughout the afternoon we tuned into the BBC and to Radio Veronica, but there was no mention that we were being towed to Holland nor that we were off the air. We arrived in Amsterdam at 5 a.m. on the 4th of March. Roger and I went to the office, and after a hectic cat-and-mouse game with the press, we went to the airport and went our separate ways. The Caroline North ship arrived in Amsterdam on the 19th of March, and both ships were brought to the Houthaven, and there they stayed for more than 5 years. It seemed at the time that Caroline would never go on the air again.
For more than 5 years, the ships were plundered by visitors and all valuable equipment was removed.
It was clear that the ships would never be used again.
However, suddenly, just before the summer of 1972, the Mi Amigo was brought to Zaandam, where the ship was painted again and repairs were carried out. Gerard van Dam had bought the ship, and he intended to make a pirate museum out of it. The ship, under this guise, sailed out to sea. Radio Caroline returned.
The tone you've just heard was the test tone which went on the air during the very first test transmissions at about 12 midnight, September the 29th. During the whole next day, Saturday, and that was the same day that Veronica changed frequency and RNI came in at 192 meters, Caroline stayed on the air on 259 meters with a non-stop music program and the power of about 7 kilowatts. It now seemed that the problems were over, but the next day Caroline went off the air again. Reason for that was that the 50 kilowatt transmitter wasn't ready for use, and the owner, Ronan O'Reilly, wanted to wait with further transmissions until this transmitter was repaired. The parts for this transmitter had to come all over from the States, and it took a very long time, so that at the end of the month it was decided to start official broadcasts at half November with the 10 kilowatt transmitter just for Holland and under the name of Radio 199. Then, at the 10th of November, these test transmissions started again. DJs were on board and everything was ready to start. During 2 days, test transmissions took place, but then came the storm. And this storm was the worst storm since 20 years, with gale force 12. Emergency situations on board of the Mi Amigo. The 180 feet long mast broke in 3 pieces. The anchor chain broke, and the ship drifted hopelessly in the direction of Ram Island. However, the crew managed to get 2 small spare anchors out, and the ship stayed at sea. And 4 days later, when the storm was over, a new anchor was brought out to the ship. The ship was towed back again to its old position near the Mibo 2, but it would take a long time to build up a new mast again. In the meantime, life on board was rather boring. This is Crispian St. John to tell his story.
We're waiting to go on the air, but unfortunately, due to the worst storm in 25 years, and it's a gale force 11 to hurricane force, and winds of up to 150 miles an hour. Yes, I was on board. Almost got blown overboard with Andy and Spangles, but that's another story altogether. And the antenna, the whole of it, except the last 25 feet, was blown down in 2 different days. And also we broke the anchor chain and drifted 3 miles. Never fear. Got another aerial on the way. It's being ordered and it's on its way probably early next week. And also we've got a new anchor chain which was put on yesterday via the Beaver, which also serves Nordsee, which surprised Bollier. And we've gone to a new anchorage. And I kid you not, we can look out of our windows and we can see people on the Mebo through their portholes. We're less than half a mile away from them, and then half a mile from them is the Veronica ship. All three of us in a mile. It's beautiful, and it's lovely, and together after that storm, and it survived that. Beautiful, really did. The whole ship was flooded with water and things like that. Water came through everywhere, even places where it shouldn't do, because the wave just came right over the ship, right to the back of the ship, to the bridge. You know, it's very frightening, I suppose, and the gale lasted some 6 hours, or, well, at least 6 hours. I was up for 6 hours of it, and I had to go to bed. I was so tired. But it took me 6 hours to get back from the bridge back to the centre of the ship, because you can't go down the bridge like you can on the Mebo. To get down outside the ship and into the front of the ship. And I tried once with Spangles and Andy, and only Spangles got down. The rest of us, we were blown. And I literally held onto a railing. My legs were blown from underneath me, so I had to go back to the bridge and stay up there with the captain. I think the funniest thing about that, although it wasn't really a funny occasion, was when Spangles said to the captain, "Captain, you ever been on a ship before that sank?" And we all had a laugh and a tear and things, you know. Still, it's all over now, and we are okay.
A few days after the storm, the technicians on board the Mi Amigo started to build up a so-called T-aerial, which is the same kind of aerial Radio Veronica uses. Very soon we could hear Radio 199 back on the air. We now give you some excerpts of Radio 199, directly followed by the first official test transmissions of Radio Caroline.
Test transmission from Radio 199. If you just tuned our way, good evening to you and welcome to this test transmission. Our programmes proper start tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock with non-stop music. At 7 o'clock it's me, Andy Archer, with you till 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock it's Leon Kaiser. 12 o'clock Jeremy Bender. What a man of leisure. 2 o'clock is Paul Dubois. 16 o'clock, or 4 o'clock if you're British, Crispy and St John. And 6 o'clock is myself, Andy Archer, back with Leon Kaiser. "29 now past 10 o'clock, and this is Ricky Wilde, and I am an astronaut." Ricky Wilde, and I'm an astronaut. A famous face has just popped his head in the studio, that of Captain Jan Harteveld. Goedenavond, Captain.
Good evening.
How are you? You must come to speak into the microphone. It's a long time.
Yeah.
How's it met je vrouw?
Prima.
And the kind?
Ook goed.
Yeah. Since you last probably heard from Captain Harteveld, he's got married, and he's also got a young girl as well. So there's a big Harteveld family coming up in Scheveningen, yeah?
Yes.
You want to say good evening?
Yes. Goedenavond als je in Scheveningen luistert. En over een uur zijn we weer terug.
Merci beaucoup. Oh nee, ik kan niet zeggen. Dank u wel. Ja? This is James Taylor.
Do me right.
Understand? Is it the same, Jeremy?
Well, the language is the same, and it's a little different, you know, like English and Americans, they have little accents. So the Dutch think we have an accent, and we think the Dutch have an accent, you know, but in fact it's quite the same.
You're looking forward to going on the air tomorrow?
Oh yeah, 12 o'clock, I suppose.
You don't seem at all nervous. The thing is, listeners, I've got to teach our friend Jeremy here how to work this panel, but the thing is I don't know how to work it myself, so...
I see a lot of buttons and all that thing, but, well, we'll
anyway,
find out tomorrow.
Our friend and engineer Chicago played this track last night and something nice happened. Maybe it's too much to expect the same thing again tonight, but anyway, here's John Lennon and The Luck of the Irish. It's exactly 20 to 3 on Radio 199, and Crispy and St John here with you through till 4 o'clock this morning, when we'll be going off the air just for a couple of hours
only to return again at 6 o'clock with an hour of non-stop music, then a full day's programmes for you. If you'd like to write to the station for any reason whatsoever, no, madam, you can forget those memos. I don't need those at the moment. Reception reports or whatever, this is our address. It's P.O. Box 2448, The Hague in Holland. That's Radio 199, P.O. Box 2448, The Hague in Holland. And some music now from a group called Spirit of St. Louis. And this is called Rolling Down the Road. That's Spirit of St. Louis there, and a tune called Rolling Down the Road. What a nice thing to do this time of morning. Once again, though, actually, I'll tell you something. That was produced by Leon, one of our disc jockeys, and as I was saying, he'll be on the air in the morning between 10 and 12, so don't forget to tune in there for Leon, won't you? Actually, Leon, he's in the studio with me. Leon, do you know what? I made a record once. Did you know that?
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I made a record, very scratchy. This is Donny Elbert and Time Hangs on My Mind on Pink Elephants. Greenwich Mean Time is exactly 6 hours. Very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Radio Caroline, broadcasting on 199 meters in the medium wave band. We're broadcasting from the radio ship, the Mi Amigo. Crispy and St. John here with music for you till 10 o'clock this morning. Starting off with this one from Tony Ashton. This is a Caroline Sure Shot this week. It's called Celebration.
Bring out your down-mouther.
On the Purple record label from Radio Caroline on this Friday morning. That's called Celebration, and as I said, that's a Caroline Sure Shot this week. Music from John and Yoko and their friends, sometime in New York. The Crispy and St. John show was produced. Central European time is now exactly 10 o'clock. In Great Britain, the time is 9 o'clock. You're listening to Radio Caroline on 199, the sound of the nation.
Here's an all-American big hit, ready to rock it.
Radio Caroline.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next 2 hours, Leon.
Ja, thank you very much indeed, Crispy and St. John. En u gaat luisteren naar het allereerste Nederlandstalige programma op Radio Caroline. Uiteraard op de 199 meter, rechtstreeks vanaf het motorschip Mi Amigo in de internationale wateren. Mijn naam is Leon Kezer, ik ben bij u tot 12 uur en dit zijn de Eagles.
Take it easy, take it easy. Good morning. Good morning. Everything looks good when you open your eyes with Caroline, Caroline, Caroline.
Dit nummer heet Cornwall Blank en het is van de groep America. Het komt van de LP Homecoming.
Going back in time on the sound of the nation, it's the Caroline Flashback.
Het is 5 minuten voor 12 en de laatste plaat van dit programma, van de Leon Keizer Show, de allereerste ooit gebracht en de allereerste ook op Radio Caroline uiteraard. De tweede show op Radio Caroline. U weet, vanmorgen om 7 uur hadden we eerst Kuspunt St. John, die inviel voor Andy Archer. In ieder geval, ik neem afscheid van u. Dat wil zeggen, ik kom misschien nog heel eventjes terug. En ik kom in ieder geval terug vanavond om 6 uur samen met Andy, als hij wat is opgeknapt. En dan gaan we een programma brengen van, laten we zeggen, de wat progressievere pop-LP's gaan we dan draaien. Dus vanavond van 6 tot 8, stand-by voor Andy Archer en mijzelf, Leon Keizer. En dan gaan we een beetje de progressieve kant op. Goed, ik had het net over platenmaatschappijen. Er is 1 platenmaatschappij in Engeland, een bijzonder jong label. En het is bij ons nu 12 uur precies. En dat betekent dat ik, en mijn naam is Leon Keizer, afscheid van u gaat nemen. We geven het over aan Jeremy Bender. Die komt uit België en die gaat de komende 2 uur voor u verzorgen. Dit is Radio Caroline op 199 meter.
Three O'Clock, Flamingo Street was dat van David McWilliams, een ouder van Radio Caroline. De tijd is nu precies 6 minuten over 12. Dit zijn de Supremes and Your Wonderful Sweet Sweet Love. Your Wonderful Sweet Sweet Love van de Supremes op Tamla Motown. Dat is een uittreksel van hun LP Lovejoy. En daar krijgt u straks nog Automatically Sunshine op. U bent afgestemd op Radio Caroline op 199 meter in de middenhalfband. En als u deze uitzendingen ontvangt, dan mag u misschien een briefje richten aan ons. Ons adres is postbus 2448 te Den Haag in Nederland. Dit is de eerste plaat afkomstig uit België. Dit zijn de Chakachas and Stories.
Nou moet ik weer een serieus openingswoord spreken. Kan ik alleen maar zeggen goedemorgen. Dit is Gerard van Dam, laat ik het dan even beleefd zeggen. Uiteindelijk is het dan zover. Uiteindelijk zijn we er dan doorheen gekomen. Het is allemaal niet zo makkelijk gelukt. 5 jaar lang heeft het schip aan de kade gelegen in Amsterdam. Het is behoorlijk vernield geweest. Maar ik kan niet anders zeggen dan, ik ben blij dat het tot stand gekomen is door de kracht van alle Hollandse en Engelse medewerkers. En ik hoop dat een ieder die dit hoort zal luisteren en ons door het luisteren zal bijstaan om het te maken tot een enorm groot en hernieuwd Caroline.
Caroline was back on the air, but still not without problems. This time with its own crew. What first seems to be a salary problem turned out to be a traitor problem. Caroline had a traitor amongst her own crew. This was the Captain Vanderkamp, who got paid by a competitive radio station to make sure Caroline would sail into any Dutch harbour. He finally succeeded. This is Mr. Ronan O'Reilly in an interview with the Dutch television talking about it.
Yeah. Does it mean that all problems are solved now?
Yes, well, I mean, most of it's now running as a radio station. Caroline had a few difficulties, to say the least, and those difficulties were beyond our control. Nobody had any permission to move the ship from here. It was brought in on the basis of seaworthiness, but there was no problem with seaworthiness in...
Yeah, that's not up to you, but up to the captain on the moment on the ship to see what is necessary to do with the ship, and he brought it in for seaworthiness.
Well, the problem was that he was not the captain of the ship. He claimed to be the captain, but I had left here on that night, and when I left here that night, Peter Chicago was the acting captain. Captain Vanderkamp wasn't here then. Captain Vanderkamp came on board at 3 o'clock in the morning without my consent, without my permission. But anyway, that is a matter that is in the hands of the lawyers. It's very complicated. It involves international law. I've informed the Dutch Navy and the Dutch police, and the matter is being dealt with in the only way it can be dealt with, through the process of law.
You said the problems are solved, also the financial problems, but you know it were exactly the financial problems which were the source of the whole theater last week.
Well, that I dispute that, completely dispute that. As far as I'm concerned, the cost of the operation, the towing of this ship from here to Amuiden and putting it in Amsterdam is a very expensive operation.
Who paid it?
I would love to know who paid it. All I know so far is that the Dick Rose Tender Company did the job.
But he is under a contract for Radio North Sea, you know.
Well, I know he's under contract for Radio North Sea. But I can't say anything. Everyone has drawn their own conclusions. A lot of people have said to me, so-and-so and this and that, but I can't draw any conclusions. I can't make any statements about who really is behind what happened last week.
Maybe it could be interesting for people from other pirate stations to kill the third one, or not?
Well, of course. I mean, it is obviously always a possibility that the other stations, I mean, they tried to buy me off on 2 occasions. They came and offered money for me to just take it away.
How much?
Well, I mean, the offers were, not something I wanted to get into the actual amounts and things, but the fact is they tried to buy us off, and we said no, it wasn't, we weren't for sale.
Do you think what you are doing here on the sea with Radio North Sea and Radio Veronica is a legal action?
Is it legal?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 100% legal. We are more legal in this position than many European broadcasting stations. For instance, Radio Luxembourg is the most powerful pirate in Europe today. It broadcasts on a frequency that it was not allocated, and therefore, under the European Broadcasting Union, it is a pirate. We are not pirates because we, in strict legal terms, we did not sign any 1948 Copenhagen Plan. We did not agree not to broadcast, and it is quite legal in international waters to broadcast. So that we are doing nothing illegal.
Just me and
You've just listened to the Radio Caroline LP. If you want any more information about Radio Caroline, then order your copy of the Radio Caroline souvenir book. This book contains hundreds of photographs of everything in the Radio Caroline organization, plus the history of other pirate stations like the story of Capital Radio, Radio North Sea International and many others. For any information about this book, just see the cover of this album.